Welcome to the Dirttime channel. I'm Alan Halcon.
And I'm Christopher Naragesh.
You know Christopher.
It's hot out here, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's hot and you're in your flip-flops.
I know, I have to, it's so hot. I'm surprised I'm not in my shorts. And you have the hat on because you have no hair to keep your head cool.
Well, no. What do you mean? No, it's just I have the hat on so I don't get sunburned.
Okay,
it's hot. It's hot out here. Anyway, good topic. Heat, exhaustion, heat cramps.
Exhaustion, heat stroke, dehydration,
Yeah. Then you were sharing a story, a little incident that occurred a while back, and you know.
Well, okay, Helen and I were driving out to Las Vegas, and I was starting to just not feel well. This was the day of there was an eclipse that day. That's how I remember that day. And we were out by the SEMA Road. We were practically out to Las Vegas in the high desert. And I wasn't drinking. And I knew that I should have been drinking, but for some, you know how like when people are going into hypothermia, for example, they take their clothes off because they think they're hot?
Yeah.
Well, I just didn't have a desire to drink, and I think that's kind of one of the symptoms that I really was dehydrating. And eventually I just started vomiting, and I was totally wiped out, and I spent pretty much the next day resting. And I did get some special Chinese medicine, but mostly I just drank a lot and rested and recovered and drove back in the night. But it was a really hot day. I wasn't thinking about I need to drink because I wasn't feeling the sensation of thirst.
You know, that's interesting. You know, an environment, it can happen anywhere. I mean, high humid areas, a lot of people think, well, you can't suffer, you're not really going to suffer from that stuff there, but that's not true. But heat cramps and heat exhaustion can really, if not taken care of immediately, can kill you.
Oh, I have a few friends who have been near death because they didn't realize that they were working really hard in the heat like this, and pretty much just weren't drinking sufficiently, weren't resting sufficiently. Or what happens is the macho guys, you know, I'm a survival guy, whatever they're going to say. I don't like to say that, but there's the macho guys that I'm beyond all that, and that they're the ones who get it, men and women, you know.
I was on a training exercise, and we had one of the guys with us. We were asking him a question. He was doing some observation work, and we were asking him, "Hey, do you see that vehicle?" We were on the radio. "Do you see that vehicle out there that's silver and, you know, has a couple of occupants in it?"
Okay.
And he says, "Oh yeah, I see it." And you know, one of the observer controllers was in the room with him because he was tucked back into the back of a room doing some observation stuff. And one of the observer controllers was like thinking to himself, "Wait a minute, how can he see that vehicle from his point? If that observer controller was not there, we would have had a serious issue." It was because that observer controller was there and noticed that there's no possible way that this person can see that vehicle from his point.
So that was a clue that he was going.
There was something, yeah. He was told immediately to doff his gear and just rest and get in the shade. I mean, just it was that bad. He was getting delirious.
Well, sometimes it's good to, you know, and like you've got your buddies in the military, it's good to have somebody watching your back. But we have to watch ourselves too. And sometimes the solution, I think, is simple. In my case, I just had to rest. If I was stuck out in the desert with no shade, it might have killed me.
Okay, right. But you had Hal in there that was kind of plugging at these questions and
watching
probing
over
you,
me,
watching
this
over you. Had she not been there, do you think the outcome might have been different?
I couldn't have driven. I couldn't have driven the car.
Right.
You know, so I would have just been stuck somewhere for a while until I recovered.
If you would have recovered.
If I would have recovered.
She's the one that was probing you and telling you to drink water and all that.
This is true. This is why only the idiotic Rambo guys go out alone and think that nothing's going to happen to them. I'm a strong believer of it. You have friends and your family around you, and you all support each other.
So let's look at some of these signs and symptoms. Okay. Well, first of all, the difference between signs and symptoms. The sign is something you see. The symptom is something you feel.
Okay.
Okay. Heat cramps. We'll start with heat cramps.
I was getting some cramps.
There you go.
I was getting some cramps down
in your calves.
Yeah.
Your calves.
That's a sign of dehydration.
That's a sign.
Right. I was getting those.
You get them in your calves.
And
you get them in your stomach at times.
No, I didn't get them in my stomach.
No, but these are the typical areas.
I got them bad in my calves, and I didn't have a desire to drink when my body needed it.
Right. So you'll get heat cramps. You'll get cramps in your stomach, possibly your calves. Now, you may not get the cramps all the time, but they're called heat cramps because that's initially with what it starts with. Were you sweating at all?
I was in a light sweat.
Light
actually,
sweat.
Yeah.
Were you sweating more profusely earlier on?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So as a symptom, as the signs progress, as a sign, we're going to call them signs because it's what you what you can visualize. As the signs progress, you will sweat less and less, because what your body is doing, it is sweating.
I think that was happening. Yeah.
What your body is doing, you sweat because it's your body's way of trying to cool you off.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, through convective heat loss.
Yeah.
It's trying to use all the heat loss mechanisms to help cool you off.
Right.
So
but then I had to keep drinking fluid, and I wasn't doing that.
that's the other thing. You were dehydrating,
and it was 100 degrees out there.
And then you start to vomit, and you dehydrate even more.
Yeah, that was
so
terrible. I hate vomiting.
Now, a lot of people, you will also start to act irrational, some abnormal behavior.
I may have gone into that a little bit, but that's almost normal for me.
Well, no, but you start acting unlike you. If some people, if they're very outgoing, they may become withdrawn. Other people that are normally subdued and laid back might start. They may get. They're going to act differently than their normal self.
This is why it's good to be around somebody else, because I don't think we're a good judge of ourselves when we go into something like this.
No, and we put ourselves in complete denial many times.
Oh yeah, nothing was wrong. Let's just keep going. I know. I mean, I you hear that about other people, but it's very humbling when you see that and you've just done that yourself.
Now, did you experience any lightheadedness, any dizziness, any headaches, or anything like that?
Light headaches, yeah. I don't remember dizziness, but light headaches, they kind of passed. And I often attribute that to not having enough coffee, because I'm addicted to coffee, I'm sure.
Okay.
But I could quit anytime I want, Alan.
Like me with my Diet Coke, I get that.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the abnormal behavior. You know your body needs water. You know that's one of the main substance to maintain your life, except you just weren't wanting to really drink it. That's abnormal behavior.
Helen was saying, I kept telling her I don't need it because I think I'll sweat too much or have to go to the bathroom. I had some dumb excuse about why I didn't want to drink.
That's abnormal behavior.
And she says, you're drinking all the time. You drink so much, I can't believe it. And so, yeah, it was unusual.
It was
Even
unusual.
when I think back on it, I think that it was really strange.
That was unusual behavior. Yeah. So these are the signs. And what were you physically experiencing? I mean, internally. Okay, so we know what we saw. We know the signs. But what was going through your body?
All I remember is feeling a little uncomfortable and uneasy. Mm-hmm. And it was subtle at first, but then it got worse when I had to vomit. But I was feeling that it was hot. I wouldn't say I had any severe pain or anything like that.
No severe pain, some headaches, could have been some symptoms.
Once I vomited, I was totally out of it till the rest day. Once that occurred.
Well, yeah. Now you know the difference between now you know some of the signs. So next time you're going to be a little more prepared, and you better go thank Helen that she was there with you to help treat you.
I thank her profusely, and then I want to share this: a good raw apple cider vinegar. I learned this in the survival training school, many years ago. It's probably over 20 years ago. In the extreme heat, or when you're exercising a lot, you put about a teaspoon to a tablespoon, whatever you can take, in about a quart of water or fruit juice, and you drink it during the hot weather. It does two things. I was told that it helps your hypothalamus regulate your body's cooling system, so the doctors can talk about that. But also, it prevents mosquitoes from biting you. So when I go to Dirttime and various campouts, I put vinegar in my water, and I'm just not getting bit. But I noticed in this we've had 2 weeks of 100-degree heat here. The first week I was really it was miserable, and then I've been drinking vinegar twice a day now, and I feel a lot better. It's still hot. I still don't like the extreme heat, but I don't feel really uncomfortable. I don't feel all the miserableness. I just kind of go on. Okay, there, it's hot, but it has really made a big difference, and I'm attributing it to the vinegar. And there is a book called Vermont Folk Medicine, I think, talks about the value of raw honey and raw vinegar. And so some of the old-fashioned medicines are really worth considering. This is, $3 a bottle? Or wherever. I got this at Trader Joe. It doesn't have to be Bragg's, but you want a raw apple cider vinegar that has the mother in it, so that mother meaning you could actually put this in apple juice and it will grow. It's not a pasteurized product. The pasteurized vinegar is good for only one thing: treating your metal before you paint it on the trim of the house. Okay.
Awesome. Right. Well, there you go. We hope you've learned something on heat cramps and heat exhaustion. I'm Alan Halcon. Christopher Nirgish. We'll see you next time on Dirttime.com.